It's that time again. Welcome to the Steel City Roundtable, your home for real stories from real people, where everyone matters and all stories deserve to be told. Before we get down to the meat and potatoes of the show, we have to go over our legal disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on the Steel City Roundtable are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We are not professionals or affiliated with any professional organizations. If you are in crisis, dial 911 immediately and seek professional help. And here are your hosts. Hey guys, welcome back to the Steel City Roundtable. My name is Mark Nebo, and I am one of your hosts. And to my right is the beautiful Kelly Gibson.
It is me, and I know you missed me. I know he missed me.
Okay, so today we got a really good show. A gentleman that I met back in 2009, 2010. We'll get more into that, but his name is Pat Shaw. He is a captain with the Pittsburgh Fire Department. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for reaching out to me.
I'm glad you're here, man. So why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I've been a fireman for 27, going on 28 years. I work in the city's Homewood section, Truck Company 17, Engine Truck Company 17. I work with probably some of the best guys on the job. I'm very fortunate, the crew that I have. Blessed to have those guys I work with. Have a great career so far. Married. 2 kids. I'm married 30 years. Both my kids are adults. My son is actually in the academy to be a fireman, and my daughter is a nurse.
Awesome.
All right.
So I reached out to Pat because I met him when I was a police officer. We worked the same area for a while, and I used to run into him on calls. So we got to know each other a little bit that way. And then in 2000, it was 2009, right, when the flood happened?
2011, actually.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
2011, I don't know if folks from Pittsburgh remember, there was a flood over in Washington Boulevard where 4 people lost their lives. And as a result of that, the city of Pittsburgh decided they wanted to do something different. They decided they wanted to train all 3 entities within the Pittsburgh Public Safety Department on swiftwater rescue training basics. Not like going out there and swimming, but, throwing throw ropes and doing the basic things, because when this occurred, we didn't have any equipment in order to, effect a save. So, we were forming human chains. We were leaning out in the water. We were doing all kinds of dumb shit that could have gotten us killed. But yeah, so when they put that together, they took a handful of firemen, a handful of policemen, and a handful of paramedics, and we all worked together. So the relationship that Pat and I had initially was just from seeing each other on calls. It became more of like coworkers, because I think we were doing it like 5 days a week for like months and months and months and months.
Like at least 6 months.
Yeah, so, maybe tell people a little bit how you got involved with that program.
Yeah, so, like Mark was saying, unfortunately 4 people drowned on the city street and lost their lives, and that should never, ever happen. Then Public Safety Director Mike Huss, wanted to change what was happening in the city. At that time, all 3 bureaus were very compartmentalized, didn't train with each other, didn't operate or play well together, so to speak, if you want to call it that. So I got involved with it, fortunately or unfortunately, that before those people perished on Washington Boulevard, I was trying to join a county-wide water rescue team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
we were in a high school together for a year, and I didn't know that.
So I was trying to join a county-wide water rescue team, and it was new at that time, or I didn't know about it. So about a month before that, that's when I was trying to join. There were some issues with if this team responded to the city, because fire isn't allowed to do any type of rescue in the city, and it might cause issues, this, that, and the other thing.
Well, that was because like the paramedics had like the monopoly on city rescue, correct? Like
Yes,
Rescue One and all that type of thing.
And they still do.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it still continues. So at that time, I was trying to join a county water rescue team. There was, again, I guess, issues. I guess they were worried about that. If the county team had to respond to the city, well, how would that be received? Whatever the case may be. So, and it just came to fruition, I guess, that I was trying to go another avenue to join this team. And right around the same time that the people passed on Washington Boulevard, and at that time, I was kind of going through official channels to kind of go around that hurdle. And again, it was nothing against the county water rescue team
Yeah.
at that time. They were worried about issues it might create for them.
Yeah, like jurisdictional issues.
Yeah, and I totally get that. So as I was going through the official channels to try and join, that's what happened. And then that's when Director Huss at that time said, we're going to just do our own team. And I was just fortunate enough to be the right place, the right time, the right guy at the right time, I guess. I took all the water rescue training on my own years before that because the city never, at that time, even now, they don't pay to take classes.
Yeah.
So I did on my own time and everything like that. I was just fortunate to be in the right place.
Well, I remember the first training we went through was, the basic proficiency for basic swiftwater rescue. And I remember, we did the classroom. And then where do we go for that first body of water? Was that up in Oil
Connell's
City?
Mills.
Connell's Mills.
Connell's Mills.
So listen, folks, I am deathly afraid of water I can't see the bottom in. Yes, I'm a giant baby. And I remember the instructor, you know who I'm talking about, who, is who he is. But at the beginning of the training, he's like, "What? You don't like water?" I was like, "I love pools. I love bathtubs. But I don't like water I can't see the bottom in because when I was 6, I almost drowned. And I just never mentally dealt with that. Another thing on the checklist. But yeah, so like I went there and I was scared shitless. Like I was so nervous because I'm like, what if I drown? And it's like there's like 14 other people here that can save you, And I remember by the time we were done, you remember when he used to do the put the PVC pipe in the water?
Oh, the
Had to-
strainer
the
trainer.
strainer
Yeah.
trainer.
Yep.
And he's like, "Who's going to go get this?" And he throws it out in the water, and I'm the first one to dive off the rocks to go chase it. He's like, "This guy wouldn't even swim like
Right.
a week ago, right?" But
You did great at that training.
dude, I tell you what, this is one of those things, a little bit about my recovery,
Sure.
and getting sober. And one of the things I've learned since I got sober is that I have to live like that. I have to take chances. I have to think bigger, and that was one of those times where the need to do something good, the need to be involved with something that could possibly help people was more important than my fears. So rolling that to you, I mean, you go into burning buildings, you go into shit that's collapsing all around you. It's like little Fallujah. What's it like, to get that call? Because I know a lot of your calls are helping paramedics, helping policemen,
Sure,
right?
sure.
But when you get that one call, like, what's it like? The whole walk us through a day that you had like a really rough call.
I mean, I would never say, a structure fire. Like I know some people say, it's just run the mill, and it's really not. I mean, every fire is different. Every house fire is different. People with, house fires with entrapment really ratchet it up. I mean, everyone, adrenaline goes through the roof. As company officers, our one of our jobs is to try and manage, because everyone wants to go do good. Everyone is there to do good. Everyone wants to. We're all willing to risk our lives, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Police officers as well. We're going to risk our lives. It's just, a lot of things go through my head. Is that okay? Assignments for the crew, and the crew that I have, I don't really need assignments. Those guys are good. They know what they're doing. But I have a lot of issues I got to start worrying about. I got to worry about, the building itself. Where's the entrapment? Or where's the fire at? Where's the fire going? Is it going to progress further into this building? Is it going to catch the next building on fire? Do I need to call for extra alarms for help? It basically, all your senses are heightened. Like everything, your sense of smell, your sense of sight, your hearing, everything is heightened. I mean, it's almost taut like a banjo string, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And everything is heightened to the point where it's almost like you're hyper aware of everything.
Well, it's like you're managing chaos.
Yeah, it's controlled chaos.
Yeah,
What it is.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, because I know go ahead, Kelly.
You also have to carry like, how heavy is your equipment? Like
So-
on top of all of this adrenaline rush and everything else that's going on, don't you have like a ton of equipment you have to wear?
So each person is a little bit different depending on what they carry, but roughly it adds about an extra 100 pounds to your body weight.
Yeah.
And that's when it's dry. Well, if you're there for an extended operation, your gear gets wet, then your gear actually starts getting heavier over time. Starts to actually really absorb the water after
That's
time.
crazy.
You're looking at roughly about 100 pounds on top of
Wow.
your body weight.
I got to see that in action because so one of the things we did in the Swiftwater program was for the police officers, we would have a weighted belt on with a heavy coat, and we would jump in the water with all our clothes on. And we would have to tread water for so long, and like, it was hard,
Yeah.
Treading water with that stuff on was so hard to do. And then you had to like turn and swim and try to rescue yourself, and it was brutal. And these guys were jumping in their full turnout gear. Like that extra 100 pounds got soaked. And I mean, these guys were struggling. And they're in good shape. Like they're in better shape than a lot of cops because they actually, don't take this the wrong way, you guys have a little bit different schedule.
Sure,
You have,
absolutely.
what is it, 24 on, 3 off?
Yes.
Yeah, so these guys get to have a lot of time to do things, but they're working a 24-hour shift straight.
Right.
So explain that a little bit. That's got to be a little
Our
like
shifts?
nerve-wracking, yeah.
Yeah, so the shifts, when I first came on the job, we worked 4 on and 4 off. It was, a good schedule. A lot of us liked it. When we went under Act 47 and ICA, you were on the police
Yeah.
department then, so that our schedule changed. And we went through a 24-hour schedule, which in some ways was beneficial, but in also some ways I think it hurt the department a little bit. But our relief times in the mornings are roughly 7 o'clock, depending on where you work. And at 07, you're on duty. Your relief crew is coming off their shift, and your morning checks. You go through your morning check, all your equipment checks. You do housework. You clean a firehouse, and after that, it depends upon who you work for. Your company officer, your battalion chief. You may be out drilling. You may be out doing inspections, things of that nature. But it's literally like being with extended family at that point, because you're eating together, you're cooking together, everyone's watching TV together. If there's a hockey game on a football game, for a case, everyone is together in the watch room together. It's almost like your extended family.
I mean, it's the thing. I think, I guess what I want to know is, with that 24 hours straight, like, you have to be ready to go like that.
Oh yeah, you get
So,
to go from 0 to 60 in a
Do you
blink
get
of an
any rest during that time?
You do, yeah, you do, and again, a lot of it depends upon how busy you are that day. There's certain firehouses that those guys run all day long and all night long.
I mean, you guys are pretty busy over there.
Yeah, we can. It can be definitely fairly busy, so you do get rest. Like, you can go to sleep at night. There's a bunk room and the captain's off, lieutenant's off, so you can go to sleep. So it just depends on the calls you get throughout the night. Most of us don't get good sleep in the firehouse. It's
Yeah.
like you get a restful sleep. Like, I always sleep with one eye open. I feel like I'm just very lightly asleep. I'm a
Yeah.
light sleeper to begin with.
Yeah.
So if that even if I'm on the truck company, if the engine company gets a run, which they get more runs in the truck, is I'll hear them going out at night. So as soon as I'm awake. And up until 2 or 3 years ago, Pittsburgh still had a night watch. So somebody actually stayed awake all night to listen to the radio. Where, we're antiquated. Like, if you look at the show Emergency.
That's for another show, my friend.
Well, Emergency, the show debuted in 1973.
Yeah.
They had Silent Night Watch in 1973.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh just got it in the last 2-3 years. So
Really?
Oh yeah, that's progress in the city.
So what's the difference between an engine and a truck?
So the
company?
truck company's a ladder. That's the one that has a big ladder on top, and then the engine has all the water. It has all the hose and all the water, and that's the one that's going to be extinguishing the fire. Truck company, our main job is search and rescue and ventilation. That's 2 of our main jobs as structure fire.
Okay.
Everyone has a little bit of a different job. We all work together, though. If somebody's struggling to get a hose line in place, if you're coming by in a truck, you're going to actually help get a hose line in place, and then you'll continue on, whatever case, if you're ladder in a building for rescue, or if you're actually searching, or if you're ventilating.
I have a question. So you have a bunkhouse. Do you have any women on your crew?
On my crew, no, we do not.
So in the event you did, do they have separate sleeping accommodations?
They do not,
So
and that's-
everybody hangs out together, like
Yes.
G.I. Jane.
Yeah, with the exception of bathroom facility. At least
Of
in our
course,
in
of
our
course.
firehouse we have a separate bathroom for ladies, and there's a shower. Is the locker room and bathroom and shower room. So if we have a female on duty and she needs a shower, we'll make sure that all the doors are closed. No one's gonna actually wander in there just inadvertently, because that's something the city's trying to contend with. It's somehow, some way. I don't know. I can't speak to what's going on with it. I just know that was a big push a few years ago to try and make these firehouses more friendly for the opposite sex.
Yeah,
And
I mean-
it hasn't came to our fires, because when I first came on, I worked in Homewood for quite a few years, and there was a female that worked in the firehouse then, and she's long retired now, but she slept in a bunker like everybody else. But everyone also was respectful. Like, everyone would sleep in shorts. No
It
one would
comes
be in
down
their
to common
underwear.
courtesy and respect.
Right, and
Yeah.
that still goes on today. Everyone's very respectful to that.
Yeah, I was just curious because
Sure.
you don't really see a whole lot of women firefighters.
No, you
know,
don't.
Just based upon like body mass, being able to lift.
I mean,
being
I'm
able
not going to
to-
lie. Their requirements are so much more stringent for physical agility than the police department.
Of course it is.
I mean, you guys do run the tower and
Run the tower
carry
with
how much the
hose.
hose weigh? Like 75, 100 pounds?
I think the hose bundle itself is 50 to 60 pounds.
Yeah,
roughly.
so they're running up 5 flights of stairs with 100 pounds of gear on with a 60-pound hose, and we're doing push-ups, sit-ups, bench press, and running around a field.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we did. Now, do you guys have annual or biannual or regular, like, physical standards you have to meet?
Man, That's a sore spot for me. That's something that I wish we would have, and I cannot believe that in this day and age, we have nothing. There's a City Fit program for all city employees.
I remember that. It's
But
like,
there's
yeah, so you can get your wellness,
Yeah,
for
there's-
forgiveness on your insurance.
For the fire department, when you graduate the academy, there is no focus on physical fitness. Whatever you do is on you.
Yeah.
There's nothing supported or encouraged.
And I mean, that's the police department too, which is absolutely asinine in my mind. Like this is a sore spot. A lot of people say, they see police officers and firemen that are overweight and out
without
of shape.
doubt.
And I'm like, no doubt. But that's because these departments don't require any type of like physical standard after you get out of the academy.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, isn't that a problem though? Like to have, and I'm a big girl. I'm okay with being a big girl. I'm smaller than I was, but I am a big girl. I'm not gonna even try to lie. If me and Mark were running against each other, this dude's gonna win. Number one, his legs are longer, because I'd be going like this, and he'd be like, but. But just him being physically fit compared to me being not as physically fit, I'm not going to be able to run as fast. I'm not going to be able to control my breathing as well. I'm not going to be able to, so if, just out of curiosity, you got that fat guy in the department, does he end up getting fired because he can't do his job?
No.
No, I knew a couple of your guys that were pretty stout.
No, they're not going to get fired, even if they really can't perform the duties. No one's going to get fired.
I think the biggest thing that happens is if you get hurt and you got to come back and then they want to check your agility and things like that, they'll have you do like basic tests, but they don't put you through another stair run. They don't put you through any of the stuff that you went through. In my opinion, I think the reason why they don't do it is because they're having such a hard time in the police aspect. They're having such a hard time fielding staff that if they start doing that, people are going to quit.
Yeah.
Because they're going to fail out. They're going to quit. People are going to get disqualified. There's people in command in police departments that, can't even shoot the target from 25 feet. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that people don't really understand. Like there's so much goes into being a first responder.
Yes.
And it's not just the training and, the officers and the firemen and the paramedics. It's all the politics that goes on behind the scene. So talking about politics, when I came on in 2007, there was this big stigma about firemen and police. Like they didn't get along. Now, you talk 20 years later, I realize that that's all bullshit, right? It was all propaganda that people try to turn everybody against each other. But maybe you can go into a little bit of like what might have caused that whole idea.
And just from my perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, just from you.
Can I go back to the physical fitness thing first?
Yes,
real quick,
yes,
just for a
definitely. You
second?
can go wherever you want, bro.
So the physical fitness thing too, I think, it's in this day and age, it's amazing that we don't have physical fitness standards. But I also understand there's two sides of that coin, and the union side of that coin is I know they're worried about it becoming punitive. Mm-hmm. It would be used against people and
like
fire.
performance-based physical testing.
Yeah. But again, I feel there's definitely ways around that. It would just take a lot of cooperation between labor and management.
Yeah, it's a basic thing like, hey, listen, what we want to do is we want you to go, jog for 10 minutes.
Sure.
We're going to take your blood pressure. We're going to see where you're at. If you're above these numbers, like for me, commercial truck driver, right? Mm-hmm. My blood pressure, I think, has to be under 140 over 90 in order to get a 2-year medical card. If it's above that, it changes how long I can get that card for.
We don't even have physicals every year. They're not mandatory.
I have more.
Yes, you have more.
I have to deal with more as a truck driver than
we do
the people that are saving lives.
Yeah, we don't
pretty sad.
have physicals. It's not mandatory. So, it's up to the individual to get a physical.
Of course.
Obviously it's, up to the individual to take care of themselves. And
yeah, if you give a shit about your health, you're going to get a physical.
But we don't have fire department physicals. Like if you go out west, down south, you have a mandatory physical every year. The Northeast, I can't speak to like say Boston, New York, but there's not very many in the Northeast, Pittsburgh especially. We do not have mandatory physicals. So we've been working on that. Something that it's something that was passion of mine, that I had filed safety concerns with our union about physicals and how we could possibly implement physicals and not make them punitive, to make them, where it would be encouraged and it would be very, I guess what I'm looking for, so they couldn't know who you are. It would be
like anonymous.
Yes, thank you, anonymous. It would be a very anonymous process where, only the person with the results would be the individual. So in our newest contract that we just signed this year, they are working on something along those lines. Not mandatory, but it will be it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's been a fight for a long time to get that, because the number one killer of firefighters is cardiovascular in nature.
Yeah, yeah.
Heart attacks, things like that. Because like you said, you go from 0 to 100 in about 20
Yeah,
seconds.
and that adrenaline just,
and-
your heart feels like it's going to explode.
Right, and if you're not in good shape or you have health issues, that could exacerbate those or make you more at risk, especially when you get to the fire scene, because at a fire scene, somebody goes down in the fire, that actually stops operations. Other than our focus is now to get our people out.
Yeah, so it could become safety issue for the
Absolutely.
firemen.
Yes.
So, like, I mean, like, the way I think about it is like blood pressure, vision, hearing. Like, that's the stuff I get tested for every 2 years, right? So they test my blood pressure, my hearing, my sight, color blindness, diabetes. Like, how hard is it to just say, hey, listen, you got to go get your physical this year.
Yeah.
Every year, go get these things checked. And if they're out of balance, we're not going to fire you. We're just going to get you on a program.
Right.
Because for me, for example, sleep apnea is a big thing with drivers, right? If you get sleep apnea, if you have test positive for sleep apnea, you have to go on a CPAP machine, or you have to do whatever the DOT determines is the way to handle it. And from them, they're antiquated as well. They believe CPAP's the best thing to go, even though there's multiple technologies out there that you don't have, like Inspire. They install this little thing in your chest, and you never worry about it again.
Yeah.
But you have to meet a compliance level. But then they also cut your medical card in half.
Oh, wow.
So instead of getting 2 years, you get a year. So now you have to go every year instead of every 2 years.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying instill something like that. That's not a punishment. Truck drivers think it is. It's not a punishment. It's just to make sure that you're healthy behind the wheel of the truck.
Sure.
Because, if you're falling asleep, there's a problem.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
without a doubt.
So why is it so hard to just have like a standard, like, hey, listen, go do this. And if you're high, low, if you're out of range, then we medicate you, we get you on track, and we just monitor you to make sure you're good.
Sure. And
Like, I mean, that's not even punitive. That's
No.
just like,
that's how you
that's-
take care of your health.
the city
Yeah,
has to
it's
give a shit enough.
maintenance.
The city has to give a
Yes.
shit enough to do that.
Yeah, and again, it would take a lot of agreement between labor and management. But NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, there's an NFPA standard on physical.
Now, that's your governing body, correct? That's who
They're
certify you guys?
No, they're a consensus standard. They're not a government agency. They're a private entity, but they are they write consensus standards that are considered best practices.
Okay.
So NFPA has a standard on physicals, which basically outlines everything that you should have every year.
Okay.
And obviously with healthcare, there's contraindications. Certain things are based on age, and with NFPA physicals, a lot of those things they want you to get tested for certain things at a much younger age than the normal population, because
Yeah.
we are, as firefighters, predisposed to certain types of cancers. Sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times what the public would see. So it's going to take a push, and again, with our newest contract, we definitely are working in the right direction. We are definitely going in the right direction. But the physical fitness thing is definitely a problem with me. So
Well, you're definitely making a step in the right direction as compared to the police departments. Like, they're still not, from what I understand, they're still not pushing for that, because it's so hard to, staff a department now. They're at bare minimum when you look at it. It's like, if we start eliminating people, we're not going to have people to work the streets, and now they got this new stupid ass schedule that they're doing. But anyway, we'll talk about that another day.
So I'm going to get back to your original question.
Yeah,
Sorry,
what did I
I didn't
ask
mean to
you?
go
I
off.
forget. What did I ask you?
It was about the division between police and fire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot.
And where
dude.
that started. I
am an alcoholic.
no,
so I
it's
forget
okay.
shit all
I
the
just
time.
I just want to speak a little more on physicals and physical fitness.
Hey, man,
That
this
definitely
is
a
your show,
passion
man.
project,
You can
and
talk about whatever you want.
I just want to make sure that labor and management's going to come to agreement. I know labor's working on it.
Yeah.
Management has to come to the table and be willing to work with us.
And
But
notoriously, management is always a little bit behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
They want to do their 16 different studies, 17 ways from Sunday, review it for 6
Yeah.
years, and then
And-
do another study when that one expires, and then they talk about it.
And I'm not on the union executive board or anything like that, so I can't speak for what they're going to, what the problems would be with that. But the police and the fire issue. So what happened, one of the big things that happened, so prior to Act 47 ICA,
Act 47, a lot of people don't know what that is.
okay, so Act 47, what that basically is we were under two boards. We were under Act 47, which is a Financial Recovery Act, and ICA, which is Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, which is a financial board that actually came in and took over the city's finances.
Yeah, basically, the federal government was in charge of the finances of the city's public safety.
Yeah, it was a state, actually. It was a
State,
state.
okay.
It was a state of Pennsylvania's Department of Economic and Community Development, DECD, I believe it was. But they took over because the city was in dire straits. 2004, almost on the verge of bankruptcy. Defaulting on loans, junk bond status, if I remember right. So just to give you a background when I first came on the fire department, Joey King was our union president then.
Probably the best union president
He
in
was
Pittsburgh
phenomenal.
ever.
We were lucky to have him. He was great, and you know what? And his successor, our current union president, Ralph Sikora, worked under him, trained under him. So Ralph has also, done a great job for us. But Joey, at that time, there was a life insurance policy that we had won in arbitration for every firefighter. I want to say it was a couple $100,000 per firefighter. And again, this just happened when I first came on, so I may not be exact on the numbers.
Yeah.
But they came back to the union and said, well, we can't afford this. What can we do? Can we come to an agreement on something else? And Joey King at that time said, well, yeah, give us a no layoff clause. It was unheard of in the fire service at that time. There was everyone obviously we have, Act 111, binding arbitration, but there was never a no layoff clause for anybody. So it was groundbreaking. And a lot of people were like, I can't believe we gave up all this life insurance for this no layoff clause. This is completely, asinine. Well, come to fruition, 0405, when we were under Act 47 ICA, when they laid off 100 police officers, we had the no layoff clause, and that was in our contract. But a lot of people don't realize at that time, too, is we voted as a union, as a contract package at that time, to give back, all of us gave back $100 a paycheck for a year to save jobs. So they took, I think, it was right around $100 a paycheck out of everybody on the job, and basically took that money. So we didn't get a raise, we took a pay cut. But we agreed to do that to keep
You
jobs.
took a step back to secure futures.
Yeah, and a lot of, at that time, there was a lot of, animosity, police towards us. And I understand that because, they didn't know the ins and outs of that.
Yeah. Well, notoriously, the Pittsburgh Police Union is very weak. In general, it's just very weak. The city monopolizes it. They for a long time, they had presidents that really didn't want to push the issues and didn't want to fight for things. And that's the difference is Joey King, from what I understand, when a contract was signed, it was time to work on the next one.
Oh, yeah. That continues today. Once we get a contract signed, our guys are already planning for the next one.
Yeah, it's not the same way with the police department. It's a lot different, and there's a lot more things. It's a union, right? But you guys do unions right. You do it the way it's supposed to be. It's not like I'm out for me. I'm going to make a decision based on my future the next 5-10 years. I'm making a decision because I want us all to be taken care of. And that's probably the one thing that I'm really envious of about the fire department is from the outside. You talked about how it's like your extended family. It literally looks like you guys are all friends and family. When I every fireman I've met, and I've met a ton, you guys always talk good about each other. I don't hear about it, but I don't hear about the stepping over a warm body to get your promotion or to get the position you want, like it happens in police departments. We talk the thin blue line, the thin red line, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. The thin blue line only exists when something bad happens. But it seems like you guys are more together on everything.
Yeah, we are. Again, I can't obviously speak to the FOP. I can
a little bit.
Yeah, you can obviously. I don't. I've never obviously been a part of that union. But yeah, we generally do try and stick together, especially for big issues like contract issues, or there's a lot of things that come up where the union will have to vote. Now, obviously, you're gonna have dissenting votes. You're gonna have people dissenting, but we do seem like we stick together, and even as groups of us become friends because we are like extended family. We live together for 24 hours a day, at least twice a week. Sometimes, depending on overtime, you may be there 2 more whole days a week. And you're there with sometimes more with them than your actual family at home. So but I know you said we always talk good about each other. We normally do, but internally,
it's a
that's
family.
everything else.
It's a family.
Yeah, it's a family.
Internally,
Right? Everyone gets along, but there's always that infighting, or this turn doesn't like this turn, or it's like that.
Let me put it this way: people are leaving the police department to become firemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chip Babjack, is he with you guys now?
I'm not sure. I don't recognize him.
Yeah, there's people are leaving the police department to go to the fire department. They're transferring their time with the city, going, listen, they work hard, you guys, but your contract is better. Long term, your retirement is better.
Yeah.
Definitely. The city of Pittsburgh, I don't know if it's changed, but it was 50% of your highest salary year, and you had to have 20 years on and be 50, I believe, to retire. You weren't vested till 20 years.
Yeah.
You guys are a lot different than that. your setup is set up to make it possible for people to retire.
Yes.
And do okay in retirement. Whereas I think the police department is, you're basically a slave your entire life. And then when you get done, you get nothing. You have no health care. You have nothing, and you put your life on the line every day. I love to see that you guys are taking care of each other in that aspect.
Yeah, we
You know,
definitely
making sure that your future has a better outcome.
Yeah, definitely, and that's
Isn't it like the movie Speed? The guy was in the bomb squad for the police
Oh, yeah.
department for 20 years, and all he got was this goddamn cheap cold watch.
Oh, you're like every other woman I've ever met. You watch that because Keanu Reeves. That's the only reason you watch that.
Actually, I watch it because they blow shit up.
Really? Okay, so what's the number to the arson department?
yeah.
I didn't say I was gonna blow things up. I just like watching things get blown up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, hey, man, I'm not your typical girl. I like to shoot a gun. When I drank beer.
Good for you.
And I like seeing people blow shit up. I like
for you.
watching people kick the shit out of each other. Like, it's just,
Lady boners.
lady boners. That's gonna be the words of the year. I think I'm gonna work lady boners into every single one of our
That's cute.
shows.
I don't mind. Yeah, so, the process of becoming a fireman, can you go through that a little bit, like
Sure.
start to finish, testing and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So they test every 3 years. Just
That's the way the city used to do it.
yeah. So we still, it's varied over the last probably 10, 15 years. I know at one point after I think a year and a half they tested, but normally there's a 3-year schedule. I think it's supposed to be every year. It's mandated, but then they do a year extension up to 3 years. But again, that's civil service law.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really don't. We always just tell everyone every 3 years. So we actually just gave a test in June. So basically, you apply to the city, you send, in between tests, an interest card, and whatever the case may be, and then they'll send you, okay, yeah, we're going to be testing in June of 2024. God bless you.
Bless you.
And which we just did. And once that time draws near, they'll send you an application packet, and they send I believe a little bit of a study guide. I know that the last test and this most recent test, they actually had, I want to say a test-taking strategy session at CCAC that was offered.
Kind of like a prep course.
Yeah, like a prep course that was offered. And I don't know if the city paid for that, but I do know it was advertised to people. So you take your written test, you get your results. Once you get your written results, and then they basically schedule you for your physical fitness test. Well, once you pass the physical fitness test, if you pass, because our physical fitness test I can only speak up until before June because it was pass-fail. I don't know if this one is, if you're scored, on a 1 to 10, or I don't know. They used to have a point where they had target times and maximum times, and you would get points based on that. I believe that's changed, just pass-fail. So once you get your written test score and then you get your physical fitness test score, then you get one score at that point. You're put on the list, civil service list. If you're military, you can get 10 veterans points. If you're on active duty, if you're reserve or guard, you can still get your 10 points if you were deployed in support of an operation and or if you've done your whole entire first 6-year enlistment. Because when you join the reserve or guard, it's a 6-year enlistment, your first one. So once you complete that 6-year enlistment, then you're eligible for your 10 points as well, if I remember correctly. But at that point, you're put on a list, and then they'll call, say that we need 25 for a class, and they might go through 40 or 50 people depending on how long they've been on a list. If it's been 2 years, a lot of people have moved on in their lives and don't want the job anymore. At that point, once they call you, you'll get called in for a polygraph test, background investigation, at which point you're just in a holding pattern until that all comes back. If everything comes back okay, then they schedule you for your physical part, your doctor's physical. If that comes back okay, then you actually get slated for a class. They might have a class of 20, 30, 40, it depends on whatever the chief wants and the city, I guess, agrees on as well. Again, that's way above my pay grade. But so at that point, when you get to the academy, our academy is 8 months long. It's a very long academy. But a lot of that, a chunk of that is EMT. We're trained in emergency medical technician. That takes roughly almost 3 months. And that's usually one of the biggest things that let's say fail people at the academy, because you get 3 tries at the National Registry EMT test. After the 3rd try, if you fail, then you're gone. You're removed from the academy. And I always try and recommend to people, if I know someone's on a list, go take your EMT. Go become an EMT before you come to the academy. Because one, that's one less stressor for you, but two, getting experience as an EMT before coming on the job is going to help you in your career tremendously. Even before. So I always try and recommend that to people. So if anybody's interested in becoming a firefighter, I would definitely recommend getting your EMT and even working as an EMT for a little bit first.
Okay.
And then our academy, like I said, we provide all the training. You don't have to come. City of Pittsburgh requires nothing to become a firefighter. You don't have to show up with any type of certifications, trainings, nothing. You just pass the test, pass physical fitness test, pass the doctor's exam, background check, and polygraph, and we do the rest. We train you we give you everything else.
What kind of things do they ask you for the polygraph test? Just out of curiosity.
I am not 100% sure. I would imagine a lot of it has to do, because there's a questionnaire they send you beforehand, and I believe it's based off that questionnaire.
Oh.
And that's what I understand it to be. I never had to take it when I first, there was nothing like that when I came on.
We took one when I came on, and it was basically, you filled out like a 100-page packet. It was ridiculous. And then they would ask you about all the things that you answered on that packet. And if they thought, like I had to go through it 3 times. Most people do it once or twice. I did it 3 times. But yeah, they ask you the same questions over and over and over. They look for discrepancies. They look for dishonesty. The polygraph doesn't actually tell truth or lies. It tells when your body goes into fight or flight.
Right.
When it goes in that
Heart rate
self-defense
goes
mechanism.
up, breathing goes up,
Yeah, you're hooked
blood
into like a
pressure
finger
goes up.
cuff, an oh shit pad underneath your butt. So when you tense up, it catches that, a heart rate monitor. So, they get a baseline, like 5 questions. They ask you like 5 questions, at least mine. They asked me, I think it was 5 questions. It was like, is your name Mark? Yes. Do you live at this? Yes. What's 2 + 2 + 4? Oh shit, I got to do math. And that's when I would go into fight or flight. And so they would get that reading showing that your body went into fight or flight, and that's your baseline. Yeah. So they compare the two, and then when you're answering questions, they look for that response. Okay. They look for you to think about what you're saying. Now this is just a layman's idiot's version of a lie detector, but like I said, I took it 3 times, so still passed.
Good job. We all appreciate that you passed. Also, what about the physical? Not with the doctor, but the physical, what kind of things do you have to pass? Do you have to carry a certain amount of weight? Do you have to run a certain distance? Do you have to do a certain amount of sit-ups? Is it all of that?
No, it's not necessarily sit-ups or anything like that. So there's one, I guess we're going to call it non-weighted, other than body weight, it's called bend, touch, and turn, where they actually have you a certain distance from the wall. You stand at a square and you touch the square with your toes, and you bend, turn around, touch the square behind your back, and you got to do that. I want to say 21 times or something in 30 seconds. I can't remember, but I guess they've been doing that forever and a day, and I guess it's one of the most failed things that they've had. At least that's what I was told. Again, I don't know it to be fact, but and then everything else is everyone wears an SCBA cylinder. They wear a cylinder with a harness on, not hooked up to a mask or anything like that, but everything else they do after that's a skill where you have to. We do a forcible wood entry simulator. It's called the Kaiser sled. They've changed it for this new test. I don't know what it. I know what it is, but I've never used it. But it simulates doing forcible entry onto a door. You're trying to get into this building, whatever the case may be. You do a dummy drag through the hallway, weighted dummy. I want to say it's a 175-pound dummy. You kind of got to go around the hallway and do this little course. You got to run up and down the stairs in the tower a couple times with a hose bundle on your shoulder, simulating like a high-rise pack. You have to go up to the 5th floor and touch. There's a square on a wall. You got to touch it, come back down, and switch over to another bundle, do the same thing. There's also a hose rope pool where I believe they're on the 4th or 5th floor. I can't remember now, but it's just a hose bundle attached to a rope over a hose roller, and you got to pull it up in a certain amount of time, and you can't let it go and let it drop back down.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I think there might be 1 or 2 more events, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's a lot already.
That is a lot.
Yeah,
that's already
you're
more than
continually
what.
moving. You go from one event to the next, to the next, to the next. The only break you get is when you walk from the Kaiser sled. Used to be in the bay of the academy. So when you were walking the Kaiser sled out to the tower to do your tower called walk/run up the tower and the hose rope pool. That's kind of like the only break you could get is you kind of walk out there and catch your breath a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of police officers. I would say probably 70% of them wouldn't pass that.
Definitely not.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't pass it now. I'll be straightforward with you.
Honestly, I think there's people on the job right now that wouldn't pass that.
Just the running up the stairs with all that weight, that's brutal. We ran a 1.5 miles and we had to do a 400-meter sprint. And I mean, those were hard,
Yeah, they're legit.
but it was, you pace yourself. You're talking like straight expenditure of energy.
Oh
like,
yeah,
no
yeah.
stop.
Yeah, people vomited after that. They threw up on the side of the tower and stuff before. Like I said, there are, active firefighters that probably couldn't do the entry physical fitness test right now, and I mean that's a combination of factors. Again, I'm not saying widespread, but there are guys out there that couldn't pass that.
Well, I know in my addiction, I drank with a lot of firemen. And not to be a smart ass,
I
but I
understand,
drank
yeah.
with a lot of firemen.
We all drink. I mean, we all have a drink.
The old Finnegan's Wake down in the North Shore. We always used to go there. But I met a lot of firemen down there, and I think so. Mental health is a big thing for us.
Sure.
And just like being a paramedic or a police officer, I think PTSD is a huge part of being a fireman. Like, you guys see some really dark shit.
Yeah, we definitely can for sure.
What do you think about the state of mental health in maybe in fire departments as a whole, or in Pittsburgh? I mean, however you want to label it, but what do they do to help promote good mental health?
Well, I'll tell you, obviously being a police officer like you were for many years, a lot of help comes from just us at the table.
Yeah.
Right? It just, dark humor. I know it sounds awful, and a lot of people don't operate in the emergency services don't understand that, but the dark humor and the banter amongst the crew is a big help. But in addition, we also have on the department through the unions called the peer support group.
Yeah.
And our guys do a phenomenal job. They're there 24/7. They have an app that they developed that we can just go on the app and we can request help, and somebody will call us within minutes. I mean, it's a phenomenal program that these guys do, and everyone that's on it, man, they do a great job for our guys. I mean, there's always, some incidents that are always going to stick with you, and those guys are, and if for some reason they can't help you, they can get you to the help you need, and it's not punitive, it's very anonymous. They just do a phenomenal job. So I feel like since the peer support group has come into fruition in the fire department here in Pittsburgh, I think it's helped out with mental health a lot. It's taken a lot of stigmatism away, because it's like the military, right? In the military, mental health, even though there's a lot of a big mental health push in the military for us, it's still a lot of people view it as a stigmatism. So what's nice is to see, we've actually kind of picked up the ball and been like the leader in that. Like I said, the peer support, we had nothing before that other than the firehouse table. We always talk about the kitchen table at the firehouse. We solve all the world's problems every morning when at the relief time. When other crews there, we solve every problem in the world. Everything's very easy. We solve it, and it's simple, and why don't they just do this, right? And that kind of helps people, obviously, deal with things as well. But when it doesn't, that peer support group that we have, man, those guys do such a phenomenal job. They've taken care of the mental health of our department in a great way.
I mean, it's great to hear that they have that type of element, because I know when I tried to get sober in 2017, I felt like I was a failure. Like, admitting that I had a problem was like, oh, if people find out, they're going to think this, they're going to think that, they're not going to trust me, they're going to think I'm not worthy, blah, 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 blah,
That's
blah.
a shame, too.
And then AA meetings, like going somewhere to talk. So it's nice to know that they have somewhere that they can get a hold of someone that's not going to judge.
Right.
That they can work their shit through. Because if I would have had that, I think we had something like that with the police department, but I was too stupid to take part in it. I was too stubborn. Do you feel that the firemen in general are starting to accept that mental health and addiction are part of that industry?
Yeah, I do. I believe that. I really believe that, because, my early years on a job, addiction was huge. I mean, I'm not saying, widespread, but there was enough of it because there was a stigma to that, right? There was a stigma to the mental health aspect of it. And there was also a stigma like, what do you mean you don't drink? Well, and that's just, as time evolved, we evolved as a culture, right? I mean, at that time, that was like, kind of like looked down, like, you don't drink, what? But now it's more accepted, I think, and there's a lot of people in the firehouses, guys that have issues. A lot of guys are willing to even personally just reach out to help them. And I feel like that's just because we have that extended family aspect. Like, hey, man, I may not like this dude, but he's still part of my family. Like, hey, he's going to try, he's going to try and get help. We'll work for him. We'll help him, whatever we can do. So I definitely think it's that the mentality or that mindset has definitely changed a lot. I'd say probably within the last 5 to 10 years.
Is there any disqualifying mental health drug that would keep you from getting on the job?
Honestly, I couldn't speak to that. That would be because our doctor the physicals, the doctor does our physicals, or the practice, I believe, is through Mercy Ocunet. I believe that's who does our physicals for the job. So I don't even know. I wouldn't even know.
No, the
couldn't
only
even
reason I
speak to
asked,
that.
I scored really high on ASVAB when I was in high school, really high. And I basically could have gone into the military, into any position, really. Well, except for submarines, because at that point it wasn't equipped for women. But every single one, from Coast Guard to the Marines, would not take me because I was actively taking lithium for my bipolar disorder. And it's like, this is crazy. We're not giving her a gun. And meanwhile, I hit 21 and got a license to carry a concealed firearm, and fuck you guys, I got it anyway. But like having that military experience probably would have changed the course of my life. And that's why I asked. I'm just curious as to if there's a disqualifying factor based upon mental health or.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there would be. That's actually a really good question.
They do a psych test for you guys?
I don't know if it's a psych. No, not like a true. Not that I know of. Not like a true psych test. I don't know if it's maybe embedded in a written test. I don't know that to be a fact. I mean, that's just obviously speculation on my part. But as far as what medications you're taking, I don't know would be would exclude you. Like I know the military for sure. There's a list of medications if you're taking those, it's definitely gonna exclude you. And there's multitude of reasons for that.
Sure.
But for the fire department, I really can't answer that question. That's a great question, though.
Thanks. I also have another question, and it just dropped out of my fucking brain.
Left the door open?
I did, and it just went. Phew, went away.
I was going to say, like, when I was a police officer, the bar was my church. It was my therapy, and like I said, I drank with a lot of firemen, so I think that's probably still true. There's a lot of drinking because you go and you unwind at the bar for a couple hours with your buddies and you do that dark humor and you talk about shit and you get it off your chest and you go home and you feel better. It seems like that's a slippery slope that, it's really.
That's what it was.
Okay. It's really dangerous, because it's so easy to lose yourself in that moment and be like, okay, this is how I deal with shit.
Sure.
And that's where I got to. So yeah, that's pretty cool that you guys, you have come a long way with mental health.
We really have.
Good. Good.
But you guys, remember we talked about that one union that'll pay for 4 stints in the rehab. If somebody on your job gets, I mean, I'm assuming like somebody gets hurt, they drug test them.
I would imagine. I know if somebody gets, like, if they're driving a fire truck and they get into an accident, they get drug tested automatically.
Okay.
As far as somebody getting hurt, I know the return to work, you will get drug tested when you come back to work.
Okay, so say you have a guy and he's a vet. He's been there a while.
Sure.
And they drug test him and he pops hot for cocaine. Do you guys have a program that you'd put him through, or is that an automatic pink slip?
No, so they're if that does happen to somebody, and I mean it's happened I've seen it happen numerous times in my career, and they do have a program. So the union and the city have a working agreement. We sign what's called a last chance agreement. So if you sign this agreement after you get some type of help, and I don't know what you have to kind of show that you got help. I know our union, like the International Association of Firefighters, actually has a center in Maryland that we actually have a substance abuse center. The IFF actually opened up. Okay. So that's an option. I don't never really dealt with that end of it, but I just know that there is help available. Our executive board, our peer support group especially. Before it was mainly the executive board, but now more the peer support group actually has just such resources at their disposal to get somebody help.
Okay.
And once you get your help, you come back to work, you sign a last chance agreement saying that if I ever come up hot again, it's an automatic termination.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
fair.
And that's happened. That just happened recently.
You get the one chance.
Yeah. So like, hey, I'm admitting I got a problem. I'm going to get help. And 5-10 years from down the road, because we have random drug testing, and you come up hot.
You do have.
We do have random drug tests. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We do have random drug testing. So if you do come up hot later in your career, yeah, you're definitely subject to termination. But the initial one, there is help available.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of help available.
In a previous episode, we talked about this. We
Yeah, the
we're-
person that was in the union that gets like 4 chances.
they get like 4 chances. The first,
It's more of a industrial union.
Oh, okay.
yeah, but like I had
4
the
chances.
I had the opportunity
You have to go to rehab
read
4
their-
times.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and they pay for it.
Dude, my rehab was like $160,000
Really?
billed to the insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They not only do they put you through school, they give you like you work toward an associate's degree, so you actually get a degree out of this school.
Oh, wow.
If you the first time you admit you have a problem, they'll send you to rehab, and then say you're in the middle of doing something and you hurt yourself, and they drug test this random drug test. They could literally walk up to you on any job site and be like, "Here, go piss in this cup," and you got to do it, or you're gone. But they'll put you through rehab, pay for it, send you away 4 times before they terminate you.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
ours is like if you come up officially once, I don't know if it's covered by medical benefits. I'm not sure who covers that. But you know,
Yes.
same with us. They could actually come up to us, come to fire us, and okay, 17 truck, be down the Mercy Hawk unit in 30 minutes for a drug test. Bring your driver's licenses. And if somebody refuses to take it, that's an automatic failure. That comes as an automatic failure. You don't even get say, "Oh, I'm not taking. I can't pee," or "I have bladder," whatever the case may be. That can come up as an automatic failure.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like the police department will, it goes through your medical benefits. If you go to treatment, it goes through your medical benefits. And then they have FMLA.
Okay.
You think you're guaranteed 12 weeks through the federal government for FMLA. It's either personal leave or medical.
Okay.
If it's medical, you have the ability to get short-term disability. If it's personal, you don't.
Okay.
So like if someone says, "Hey, Captain, I need to go to rehab," then they call the healthcare, and then they go through whatever third party they deal with for the setting and all that shit up,
Okay.
and then it's all taken care of from there. Like technically, you don't have to tell your boss. You don't have to tell. They don't have to tell you that they're an alcoholic. They just need to be like, "Hey, I need to take 12 weeks of FMLA," and the only people that know are the healthcare provider and then the third party adjuster, whoever deals with all the other shit.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So like it's a lot like what I dealt with when I went through rehab, just recently. I went on FMLA, got paid short-term disability, and I dealt with a company called Lyra, which was a third party.
Okay.
And then I dealt with my benefits. So it was like I called my benefits, they said this, contact this person at Lyra, deal with them. And then they just ship you off, deal with that, and nobody has to know what's going on. And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand as first responders is they think they have to tell their boss.
Yeah.
They think they have to go to the chief and be like, "Hey, chief, I'm an alcoholic. I need help." It's like, fuck no, you don't. All you got to do is call the health insurance, and they'll guide you through the process.
I wonder if I had a really good job right around the time I detoxed myself last year. And I wonder if I could have done the same type of thing through my health insurance was banging. I had a state job.
FMLA is FMLA. That's federal government security. Like the way I understand it is that's something you are guaranteed. Like if you ask for it, you have to be at your employer for a year.
I don't think
And
I
then
wanted anybody to know.
I think it's every year if you need it. You could get it every year.
Oh, I don't know.
It's just based off of your need and, doing the research, doing the due diligence, calling and asking about FMLA. So if you're in first responder and you're thinking about going to rehab, call your health provider. They will walk you through the process. You don't have to tell your boss. You just tell them I need time off. End of story. That's it. That's all they need to know.
Yeah, I mean, we can call our healthcare provider as well. I mean, we have our peer support group, obviously, which is, real prevalent. But yeah, obviously, there's other avenues. But I didn't know that the FMLA and that was all part. of
I
that.
didn't know that when I was a cop, when I tried to get clean the first time in 2017. I didn't know that, I didn't have to tell my boss that I was sick. I didn't know that these things were there, so I, hey, I'm an alcoholic. And then no offense, but for the rest of my career, I'm marked the alcoholic at work. You know what I mean? Like I worked in a small division, everybody knows you, and everybody knew I was an alcoholic. And that did affect the way people looked at me. It did affect the way people felt about my actions, but also because I acted like an alcoholic. I did stupid shit, but that's enough about me. It's my favorite topic. Yeah, so
Well, that's because drug addicts and alcoholics are narcissists.
no, I'm not. I'm always right.
He's always right. No, condescending means I'm talking down to you. I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. This always goes south. So if somebody came up to you and say, "Hey, Pat, I want to become a fireman," what would be the takeaway, some advice you could give them, maybe some counsel on what to expect, what kind of mindset to have, anything.
Sure.
Anything you can tell people.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple different things I'd tell them. You know, number one, I always encourage younger people to the military. I really feel that's a huge benefit, no matter what age you are. I mean, you know, if a young person, just the reserves, them to go to active duty, I always encourage that. But you know, if somebody's in the fire service and they want to get into the fire service, I always tell them, you know, there's multiple departments. You know, Pittsburgh is just one of multiple departments. There's a lot of departments out there that you could get involved with. So one, I'd tell someone to research departments and, you know, kind of make a list of what departments you'd like to kind of talk to and, you know, reach out to. If somebody says, well, I just want to stay in Pittsburgh, well, then I'd tell them, get your EMT first, get that done. And then, you know, reach out to civil service. Civil service will give you the interest card. And then when they're getting close to testing, they'll send that, you know, basically a letter out saying, hey, we're going to be testing these dates. You have an application packet you could fill out between these dates and these dates, has to be in by this date. And then, you know, I'd tell them, there's really nothing I could tell anybody to study. That's the thing is,
Yeah.
you know, I know the test, this newest test, and again, I don't know anybody taking it, but the rumor, obviously firehouse rumors, right? It's changed dramatically from recent tests, but I don't know in what way. You know what I mean? I don't know what they've added or taken away. I just know it's changed. So I'd encourage anybody, if they'll send you some pre-test stuff to study, and they'll send you some dates for the CCAC study session, pre-test sessions. I'd recommend going to every single one of those. We do offer at our academy physical fitness practice sessions. I don't know when those are scheduled for, but once you see those, take advantage of it. And then, you know, take advantage of keeping yourself in shape. Keep yourself in, you know, good health. So when that call does come and they hire you, you don't have an issue going through the medical portion of it when you go see the doctor. You know, make sure if you have your EMT done, get some experience with that, you know. It's not going to hurt. And I also encourage people, look, if you're really interested, go become a volunteer. You know, the volunteer fire service in Pennsylvania is really, really struggling today. And that's, you know, a lot and due in part just because of the way society is today, right? We have two people, you know, mothers and fathers having to work, and you know, everyone's busy and everyone's involved in stuff. It's nobody's fault. It's just kind of the way it's just kind of the way we've evolved, right? I mean, in the 70s we've had X number of millions of volunteer firefighters, and now we're down to whatever the number is now. But so I always encourage them, you know, join your local volunteer fire department. You'll get an idea of the fire service. You'll get an idea, hey, is the fire service actually for me? Because you may go become a volunteer and go to your first structure fire and go, I don't want no part of this crap.
Yeah.
And you know, then you're just gonna, you know, you're not gonna waste your time and somebody else's time. So that would be the steps I would tell people. You know, again, reach out to whatever civil service department, whether it be Columbus, Ohio, you know, Fairfax, Virginia, whatever. Reach out to their civil service departments and get information. They'll send you all of the information you need to apply, and you know what you got to do to take the test and what they're looking for.
What about dealing with the mental part of the job? How would you tell people, how would you describe to someone, like, being a fireman is just not, you know, washing my car or cooking dinner when I have a day off. Like the police officers always just, God, these guys, like, all they do is barbecue and wash their cars and work out. They suck. But we know that's not true, right? You guys do a lot of things. You have a lot of responsibilities. How would you, I guess, explain to someone what they're in for mentally?
Well, so that's one of the kind of a background reason why I would tell people to get involved in becoming an EMT first, and getting involved in their local volunteer fire department. I mean, number one, just for community service, right? That's awesome. Number two, that's going to give people exposure to some of those things that we see, and that's going to kind of let them know right off the bat, like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this for a living because of this. But you know, the mental aspects, I would just let people know, you know, you've got to expect the unexpected. You know, people are calling you a lot of times, it's the worst time in their life. It's the worst thing they've ever experienced as a person or as a family. So you are coming there and you're seeing what might be your baseline, the worst, or not as bad. It depends on the person. So you got to be prepared to deal with the worst things you could possibly conjure up in your mind. You know, can you deal with that? Can you walk away from that and feel comfortable talking to somebody about it? You know, whether it be through firehouse humor or getting help, or can you deal with it and like on that scene? Because a lot of times people get in those situations, you know, it could be a pretty messy scene, and sometimes people have a tendency, like, you know, oh man, like kind of gasping, like, I don't know about this. And I mean, it's just human nature. But in the fire service or and police, whatever the case may be, you really don't have that opportunity, right? Because people were expecting like you to perform when you get
Yeah,
there.
you got to solve a problem.
You got to solve that problem. It's the worst problem they've ever had in their life, and it's a medical problem, whatever the case may be. So I would tell people, look, be prepared to see some amazing stuff. Be prepared to see some of the worst things you're ever going to see in your life, and everything in between. And, each person has to ask themselves individually, this is not just about a paycheck. This is not just about benefits or a pension. This is about you showing up on the worst worst day a person's ever experienced sometimes, and being able to make sense of that and offering help or comfort. And that's what we're there for. We're there to help the citizens, right?
And try to make it home alive.
And try and go home alive, and and how to deal with it when you get home. And that's a big thing, like we're talking about.
That's where I was weak.
With alcoholism, and substance abuse, some people that's their coping mechanism, right? I mean, and for some people that, I guess for people maybe when they come into this line of work, know that there is help out there when you do come to this line of work if something does happen, a traumatic event. But that's what I'd tell them. Be prepared to do amazing and see awesome things, and be prepared to see some of the worst things you're going to see in your life, and be prepared to deal with people sometimes at the worst moment of their life. And people are leaning on you, every one of us, not just the company officer, the whole crew, to make that situation better for them. They're expecting you to treat them like you treat your own family. And that's a little bit of disconnect there, but.
You got anything?
No, but I forgot to tell everybody about my earrings last week. I'm kind of sad about it.
Well, you can do your earrings now.
Oh, do them now. Last week I had fried egg earrings, and I'm really sad. I'm gonna have to rewear them in another outfit. Maybe I'll wear my yellow poodle skirt next week. But anyway, this week I have crow skulls, and because I am that girl, I have a crow skull necklace too.
Got to accessorize.
Yes, I accessorized
they're all
very
done.
well today.
Pat, I'm so glad you came out today. Thank you,
Brother,
brother.
thanks for having
I
it.
appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you reaching out to me, and I'm honored to be here, and I hope.
Don't be honored.
No, we're a mess.
No, I go a long way back with Mark, and I've always had a lot of respect for him. And
Another mistake.
you're always a good guy, and you know what?
Thanks, man.
When we trained together, we always had a good time, and there was no police line, fire line. There was none of that. We were just all together.
Yeah, he'll be getting his check in the mail for
No,
saying
I
those
mean,
nice
I mean
words.
that's severe. I mean, and again, it was always a good time, and I hope I shed some light on some stuff.
Dude, you shed some light on things that I didn't know. I mean, I'm just glad to have you here. I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you said 28 years.
Starting my 28th year, yeah.
28 years. You're still going home to your beautiful family, man. Be safe out there. Keep doing what
Please
you do.
be safe.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you do. Yeah, I mean, if that's it, guys, just remember that there's always a seat here at the round table for you. We know that it's tough sometimes, and we know that it's hard to reach out for help, but just be willing to reach out for help. As Pat said, be willing to, take care of your mental health, talk to people, do what you got to do. But you're never alone, and please don't forget that. So until the next time we see you, we love you.
Also, God bless America.
Oh, yeah. This is our new background now because this is going to upset some people, but go Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. The man who had blood all over his face and was like, fight. That's the guy. That's the guy I want hanging out
so
with
if you
me.
don't like Trump, you got to listen because we're going to say some stuff. But anyway, we love you. Take care.
Bye.